So for the last few weeks now, Google been dropping some hints that they might be announcing some hardware to be released for their Project Stream, which is a cloud gaming streaming service, and they might be announcing something at GDC 2019, which is actually coming up next week. It's held in San Francisco between the 18th and 22nd of March. And a device which they may or may not be announcing at this point doesn't have a name. It's simply known as Project Yeti. Do you get it? Because people are talking about it, but they've never seen it. It's Google's joke, not mine, okay? So for those people who aren't in the know, what exactly is Project Stream? So just a very quick TLDR, Google's Project Stream gives users the ability to play AAA titles at 1080 and 60 frames per second, but through a browser. If only there were a company out there who had already perfected cloud-based gaming and had already released a piece of hardware for that service. In all seriousness, if this is your first time to the channel, have a look at the link in the description below. Check out Shadow for already available cloud-based gaming. So Google had already run a beta for Project Stream, which ended in January, which allowed selected users to play a version of Assassin's Creed Odyssey through a browser. That ended around January 15th with no kind of next steps or here's what's going to happen next, which has led people to believe that this announcement at GDC might be it. Now, before these kind of hints and teasers came out, there are actually some questions around if Google would even take this forward themselves, whether or not this was just a proof of concept to show that it could be done, and then they were just going to license it to Steam or Origin or, you know, a company who's been buying up anything to do with gaming recently, the Epic Game Store. But as I mentioned in the last few weeks, we have had some teasers and some vague hints from Google. The last one a few days ago from their Senior Vice President of Devices and Services, Rick Osterloh, who posted a link on Twitter to this video right here, which just says, "Gather around as we unveil Google's vision for the future of gaming at GDC 19. That's hint number one. The second kind of hint and tip of the hat, if you actually go over to Google's store, which is store.google.com, it's currently showing that same teaser video. Now, the important thing to understand here is Google actually has two very specific and separate domains in which they sell their hardware and their software. If this was to be just a piece of software that you would run, then that would actually be on play.google.com, essentially, which is a Google Play Store. But the fact that they've actually got this on store.google.com, it's the Google Store. The other things you might find on there are Chromebooks, Chromecasts, Pixels, Google Homes, anything hardware related, which again just teases that this may be an actual piece of hardware. And lastly, there's this, a patent which has been making its way around the internet for the last few weeks of a games controller which Google had patented. If anyone wants to see the full thing, I'll leave a link in the description below to the actual patent for a full 7-page technical and legal mumbo-jumbo breakdown of this specific controller, which, if I have to be honest, it's got to be one of the most fun descriptions of a controller that I've ever heard. What is claimed is a computer-implemented method compromising receiving by a processor of a game controller communicatively coupled to a host device an indication of a notification about a game that is not currently launched on the host device. In response to receiving the indication of the notification, causing the indicator light of the game controller to illuminate in the first indication configuration associated with the game on the host device.
A few moments later.
Transmitting a first activation signal of the host device in response to receiving indication that the action button has been pressed on the first, wherein the first activation signal causes the first game to be launched on the host device. Brief. Now, cleverly, as you can see in that, anytime they're talking about what might be their piece of hardware or console, whatever it's going to be, they just list it as host device. But it could also be that this patent was actually first registered in 2014, by which point they had no idea what this was going to look like. It's just something that companies do. As soon as they have an idea, they patent it. But the version of this which has been making its way around the internet is actually a continuation of that original patent. So every time you want to extend it, you need to file a continuation. But with these patent pictures making their way around the internet, of course, you've got people who have already made renders of what this controller might look like, which, I mean, really? That's it? But again, this was filed back in 2014, may have zero indication on what the actual thing would look like, and I guess, you know, there's definitely worse concept controllers out there. So with those, the potential pictures of the controller, it begs to question what would the actual console or device or piece of hardware running it on actually look like. And one potential is there might not actually be a new device or hardware or console or anything at all. Instead, Google may actually look to utilize an existing piece of hardware which a good majority of people already own, a Chromecast. If you think about it, a Chromecast is already a piece of hardware, it plugs into the TV, it's already streaming TV shows and things like that. The only thing would be, you know, how would you connect this new controller to it? Oh, but conveniently, look, back in April 2018, Google filed with the FCC for the third generation of the Chromecast to come with Bluetooth connectivity, which could have just been a general upgrade to the Chromecast from the second to the third version to include Bluetooth, or it could literally mean that this has been in the works for a very long time. So those are just some theories, some speculations, but honestly, up until this point, we have no idea about Project Yeti, and probably won't until the GDC 2019 unveiling, which is on the 19th of March. I'll leave a link to their live stream in the description down below if you want to jump in and set a reminder now. If you have any thoughts on what this might look like, if you're interested in the service, if you know, a better service already exists, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up would be appreciated. If you haven't already, by God, subscribe to the channel. And as always, I shall see you in the next one.